The live benefit. Okay, count of five, go.
Go. All right. Hello, sports fans, especially football fans. We have a treat for you on this episode of Sports for All. Today we have with us UEFA coach and mentor and the founder of the National Youth Football Academy in Sweden, Owen Southgate. Owen, say hello to our viewers.
Hi, everybody. It's good to be here today. Thank you for inviting me, Vince. Appreciate it.
Thank you in advance, Owen, for your time. And we have also with us here UAAP Season 81 Rookie of the Year, former De La Salle University Green Booter, and now Lincoln Memorial University midfielder, Shanden Vergara. Shanden, say hi to our viewers.
Hello, guys. Looking forward to this meeting. Thanks for inviting me, Paul.
Okay, let's get right to it, gentlemen. Um, Owen, I want to ask you about your experience with Football for Humanity when you were here in the Philippines. Could you tell us a bit about your experience here and how did that come about?
Sure. Well, I can start with how it kind of was conceived in terms of me coming over. I noticed the great work that Football for Humanity been doing on LinkedIn a long while ago. I think 2 to 3 years ago, I'd kind of noticed just how things were going with the organization there in terms of their support for work in the Philippines through football and all of the wonderful stuff they do. And I'd reached out to Chris Thomas as a result of some of the work that we're doing with NIFA when it comes to supporting young people and what we were aiming to achieve with developing a collaboration with Football for Humanity was to present opportunities for young European leaders to come over to the Philippines and get involved in supporting the work that Football for Humanity does. So a lot of conversations, kind of a lot of synergy, a lot of kind of good connection as a result of the conversation led to me coming out in June 2019 with one of our senior young leaders, a guy called Leo, in which we spent 10 days in Davao, kind of spending time delivering an educational course relevant to the work that we do here in Europe and in Sweden. And beyond that, kind of getting to know the Filipino culture, kind of getting involved in different things going on locally, which was an extraordinary experience for me. It was fantastic fun. June was hot though. It's a hot time of year, so it was kind of like a mixture of work and sweat, which was for me a lot of fun. It was really good. And then just to kind of follow from that, we then revisited the Philippines later that year in November. Yeah, I think it was November. Yeah, November. And we toured for nearly a month in different regions of the Philippines, delivering again education in different ways, and kind of getting involved in again some more cultural kind of aspects of the way that you guys do your thing in the Philippines. And again, just a profound experience for me, being able to go all the way from Manila to Marawi was just a phenomenal experience. And I got to taste just how good you guys are at football. It was fantastic. It was a real surprise. I really enjoy the Filipino culture of sport. There seems to be a real focus towards a level of creativity, which I think is kind of connected to more of a social culture thing. And just ended up having a lot of fun. Though we were extremely ill for like 10 days in the middle of that trip in November. So but that's another story. We go to that another time. But it was fun.
Well, I saw in my research, I saw you in a photo with a little girl. You were playing with her. What was that all about?
That was an event that Football for Humanity had developed at Vermosa, just outside Manila, and which we had. And that's obviously the sports center for. I'm assuming everybody would know what Vermosa is, but it's a fantastic facility, and Football for Humanity, with its networks, had managed to kind of create an event where we were able to support a local orphanage with some, again, delivering sports and a training afternoon essentially to these orphans. And we got to visit the orphanage and kind of see what it is that Football for Humanity are doing to support their cause. And then what we did is we then took a practical session with those young people, including that little girl. And as you can see by the picture, it's just sheer joy from
Yes.
my perspective, being involved in moments like that. And it was a blessing. It's, you know, there's not many European coaches who will actually kind of take the opportunity to have those kinds of experiences. For one reason or another, though, there are a lot of European coaches doing some great things for kids. But in the instance of that, for me, it was everything that I'd kind of accumulated as the things that I would like to be a part of within football were kind of happening in that moment. Because when you're seeing kids have such fun through sport, especially if you're the one facilitating it, I don't think there's anything better. So that photo itself is a real good caption of the moment where all of that joy is kind of emphasized. It was a good picture, really cool.
Okay, let's move over to Shanden. Okay, Shanden, can you walk us through your journey, if you can, in a few sentences? Your journey from Rookie of the Year at De La Salle to Snow College to LMU.
Oh, my journey has been like tough. It's not been easy, but then I was able to adapt quickly to different environments, from Manila to a different school, from a small school, then transferring to a university, like with surrounding with different players, different mentality, playing style. Like, it was like pretty hard for me to adapt, but then I was able to like get along with them, like because of training and all that. But yeah, it was good. Like, I know it's been like tough for me because I don't know anybody yet, but then it turned out to be good in the end, which the results, like the expectations, some expectations were met, but then some were not.
Okay, are there any similarities and differences between, correct me if I'm wrong, your coach Robert Spain and was it Coach Alvin or Coach Hans who coached you at La Salle?
It was Coach Alvin.
Were there any similarities or between them in terms of how they handled you?
They were different. Well, at De La Salle, like they treated us like equally. So that there's no rookies, no seniors. No, it's not. For Snow College, like it was a different coach. He was from England, but yeah, he was really tough. Like, probably the most toughest coach I've ever experienced. But then I learned a lot from him. But he was like being honest to me. But then Coach Spain, a nice coach, very nice coach, professional. He treats us players here professionally, because I know he's been, like he told us, he's been to LA Galaxy. He worked with the US, with the current US national head coach right now, and he also went to Columbus, Ohio, as well, and he also went to like Division 1 schools and all that. And yeah, I learned a lot, like different how they teach players, and yeah.
All right. My co-host for tonight, Brian Yalung, you have anything for Owen and Shanden?
Oh, good evening, everybody. I'd like to ask Owen, how was that experience for you? I mean, you were here in the Philippines before. Did you see any potential or any any players with potential, and was it? Did you have any trouble teaching?
Not at all. For me personally, as an experience, it was life changing in many ways. But often, I always operate with an open mind, and I'm really, intrigued by different cultures and how they apply themselves within the context of sport and what it does socially and all this kind of. So it was, my time in the Philippines was an extraordinary time. In respect to the connection to those individuals I was working with within the courses, for example, not a problem at all. I think I think again, as a culture, a social culture, the Filipinos are incredibly welcoming and warm people. So it was often, well, not often, it was always an absolute pleasure to kind of be involved in social interaction, be it delivery or be it just having the opportunity to kind of talk to coaches and their experiences and what they're doing. There's a lot of love and a lot of passion in their time spent as coaches and as people of the Philippines. That's a really nice thing to kind of connect to. In terms of the logistics, it was intriguing to kind of be involved in some spaces where we had to kind of drive like an hour and a half to get to some little out space. But again, when we arrived, the local community were nothing but phenomenal in terms of how they received us, how they were prepared to support us in delivering education. Take Marawi, for example. Marawi was an extraordinary experience as a result of having to go into, well, we didn't have to, we were invited to go into ground zero, which is obviously where the siege occurred. And it's those moments that were quite profound in terms of experience, but it also gave me an opportunity to really see how strong the Filipino culture is when it comes to things like recovery. How you guys manage to face adversity all of the time, how you kind of guys are innovative and creative and strong and resilient when it comes to stuff. So when I was dealing with coaches in particular, you could kind of see that was ingrained in each and every coach that I was working with. There's this propensity to face adversity, to do the best that they possibly could, and to learn as much as they possibly could too. And to be honest, I took the opportunity to learn a lot from them also. So it was, I could talk all day about this stuff because I really enjoyed my time. But I'm aware that we don't have all day, so it is what it is. But it's but by and large a really positive experience. Though I would say it has its, seeing it for what it is. You do know what goes on behind the scenes, and I'm not naive enough to just see the nice stuff at the front. I'm aware that there is a shift in political culture that's required in order to really provide Filipino football in particular the platform it needs. But that's in every country. You go to every country, it's the same thing. So it's just in different shapes and sizes. So yeah, so it was a good experience.
Judging by the way you're talking, Owen, it looks like I'm gonna see you in the future here once everything's.
I would
As soon as
love
the
to.
pandemic's over, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for me, it's this journey of as a coach and is about being able to support as many people as you possibly can through sport. And it's not just the coaching of the sport that's critical. It's the engagement and the relationships you build. And I love the idea of building as many good relationships with as many people as possible, so that we can have, so we can work together individually and as groups to make things better globally, not just for Philippines and not just for Sweden. And it's about bringing that collective together globally and kind of making things work better for what is the next generation of people like Shanden, for example. So to have such a reception as I did going out to the Philippines, oh man, of course, I'd love to come back. It was a phenomenal time. But it's also about the outreach. It's about me knowing that, if I continue to be able to support what Football for Humanity does, for example, for the long term, it's just going to have a better impact on what happens for the generations of Shandens that are coming through. And that's critical. I think you have to kind of think way above yourself in that instance. And for me, it's, the visit is not only an opportunity to go to somewhere I really love being a part of, but it's a mission, and that's critical. That's crucial.
Right. Thank you, Owen. Let me go to Shanden now. Shanden. Yeah.
Opo.
Earlier, before we went on air, you were telling something about this condition you had. Would you? Could
Yes
it?
po.
Could you share us something more about it? It's not an injury according to you, right?
Yes, yes, po.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested in hearing about it. It's something new.
Okay. Um, it started when it was October. Like we were about to end the semester, our training, and then I was in training. I thought it was just like a cramps or something, but it was like something new to me, which I didn't expect about it. And then I went to my like our AT and all that and told him like, "Hey, what is this?" I couldn't. Then he was like searching about like because he couldn't even like find about it like what's the thing. But then he told me like, "Oh, it's a compartment syndrome," and I don't really know about that. Like, it's like the compression of four muscles in my legs, which it's like where the blood flow doesn't circulate around my leg. So it's like it restricts the fascia for the muscles to expand. So yeah, that's why it swells, it hurts, it's painful when I run, and when it disappears when I stop playing. But then I was glad, like I was able to play this season because I did some stuff like some just foam roll massage before I sleep, and it turned out to be like, oh, okay, like this will not like be a long term problem for me. But then last two games, like when the season was about to end, it came back. That's why I couldn't like play as much as I could. I was able to play, but then I was having some pain about it. But then like this summer too, I was about to play this club, but then I rejected it because I can't play with this anymore. Like it's been bothering me, so that's why I took the surgery. I'm thinking about the long term. Like if I play this summer, I will still have some troubles about this, and then probably I will suffer this incoming fall season. That's why I took the opportunity to get surgery. And I talked to the doctors. It was an easy decision for me. It took like weeks for me to think to get surgery. So yeah.
Okay, so you underwent surgery. How long will you be required to rest and stay away from football?
According to the doctor, he said like 6 to 8 weeks,
Oh, not that long.
depending on how I take good care of my body.
But moving forward, will this be a problem for you? Is like what kind of injuries could you be susceptible to?
Um, I think that's only it though, because it's a chronic exertional compartment syndrome. Like it comes back.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah.
All right. All right. I'll see you on my rest over here. Thanks, Vince. Back to you.
All right, Owen. The past few weeks, um, racism has reared its ugly head once again. I'd like to ask you how are you tackling this problem at the youth level in Sweden and in England?
It's a really good question. In the context of my time in the UK, a lot of focus and attention was towards how we could educate the youngest generations, so that there's an emphasis placed on prevention rather than cure measures when it comes to any form of discrimination, because I think one of the biggest issues is that social culture will always prevail, and I've mentioned social culture a lot, but it's really quite an important thing to kind of consider when you're looking at how young people in particular are educated into society, and football and sport has a really positive, it can have a really positive impact on the learning experience of a child if the right educational things are put in place. And so the English FA, the English Premier League, certain initiatives kind of associated to them have all been kind of really focused on tackling things like racism through education, and it's making sure that it happens early, so that young people have not only a clear view on how these things arise, but what they then conceive within themselves as things they value when it comes to either engaging in stopping this kind of thing from happening, or presenting themselves in a way in which they maintain balance through their perception of discrimination. I think when it comes to it, it's a much deeper thing. interestingly enough, in Sweden has been, relatively homogenous as a country for quite some time. So it's been very typically kind of its own race, and immigration has happened, and has happened actually quite extensively over the last 10 years. But it's a recent phenomenon. So Sweden has a little bit of catching up to do when it comes to kind of getting to grips with the kind of impact things like racism and discrimination can have. And there's a big difference between Sweden and England when it comes to the level of education that's delivered in sport to encourage young people to see the bigger picture. But having said that, Sweden's a progressive country and is making strides to do that. And we as an organization are actually involved in supporting a couple of organizations that target specifically things like racism and even things like sexual abuse within sport, which is a critical thing to also kind of discuss. If you're going to talk about things like discrimination and things like that go beyond that, it's looking at how young people are protected within sport when it comes to things like sexual abuse too. And we're working very heavily with one of the leading organizations here to kind of establish a much better framework in educating, again, young people to enter their adulthood with a much better balance and a much better view on how to combat things like racism. It's a big thing, as I'm sure you're well aware. It's not just a one size fits all approach to this scenario. It takes a lot of planning, a lot of emphasis placed on looking at different angles in which you can influence through sport and through football. And from our perspective, we're very heavily involved in those kinds of angles. We're even working with an international university at the moment to create a co-production program for student athletes that actually are the ones who are delivering the programs themselves in a way in which they're able to learn on the job how to tackle these kinds of issues within not only their bubble but within the wider community bubble. And it's just consistently kind of holding yourself up against values that I think is the most important thing, and then your behaviours associated to those values. It's a bit another big conversation.
But aside from that conversation, is there also another ongoing conversation with the parents of these kids, because they are the first teachers
Absolutely.
of these kids?
Agreed. And if we go right to the beginning of when I answered the first part of the question, it's in and around that social cultural dynamic, and you have to kind of essentially, if you are a football club or an institution, or even a coach or a parent or a parent coach, your job is to emphasize that everything that you deliver from a learning perspective is able to be then taken back into other social contexts, including the home. So if you emphasize value heavily within the framework of your coaching or your education of these young people, then they're much more likely to take those values back into the home and then establish them as things that are of an expectation at least. And the great thing is that young people, that's the beauty about young people. They're extraordinarily energized, heavily motivated, and they're also pliable. You can produce consistent good values in an environment, and you can see it very quickly work on the individual from a psychological perspective. So that individual then has a chance to kind of transfer all of that content and knowledge into other domains, as highlighted. But parents are critical. But the major issues for parents always come from the fact that they have their own history, and they will have their own unique perspective on the aspects of discrimination that they've maybe potentially encountered, and even essentially trauma organizations and institutions to then start to cleverly work with those individuals in order to not only help them shape the future, but for them to kind of get over some of the stuff that maybe they've been involved in too, if in fact they have been involved in any kind of level of racial abuse themselves. So it's all about education and re-education. It's critical.
Okay, Shanden, how are you the only foreign student athlete on the team?
No po. Actually, like 60% or 70% of the team are internationals. They're composed like from South America, Europeans, especially from Spain, England, Italy, Germany, Greece, Costa Rica, like some Latino countries like Costa Rica, and then Brazil. I don't think I have Argentina. Yeah, Brazil, Colombia. Yeah. So we're completely a diverse group here, but then and it's good too because you learn from them, like how they interact with you, you learn about their country, you make friends with them. So it's good.
Yeah, you left Manila, you left LaSalle, you left Manila at a pretty young age. You left Manila for Snow College at a pretty young age. Usually, kids in our country, they would feel homesick, but you didn't feel any of that, obviously. How were you able to um, motivate yourself? How so far have you kept yourself busy to keep you away from being homesick?
Oh, that's a good question. Of course, I experienced homesick in my first month, I guess, when I arrived to Snow College. Like it wasn't easy for me. Like so, I remember the first people that I met, they were from Japan, and it was hard for me to communicate with them because they didn't know
Language
how to
barrier.
speak English yet. I mean, like they had to use phones in order for us to understand each other. And then, yeah, it was really hard for me. But then I met my roommate. He came from the Philippines as well, so that's why we got along with each other. Like he loved Philippines, so like we turned out to be a good relationship between me and him. And then also like I because of football, like I kept myself busy, a lot of things like school and all that. And also I was talking to my family, so like I'm pretty grateful about everything, like especially technology nowadays. Like it's easy for us to communicate. Like it's just one message away. If we have a problem, why not call or text, give them a message. And then yeah, like so far like I'm not like I didn't miss home. Yeah, I did miss home, but then I'm so busy like because of school and football, like training all day, do the stuff, daily routine that I need to do. Just simple as that. And then also it's just my mind, I guess. Like this, I will go through this. Like it's just my mentality. Like I will get through this. Like you will make some friends, and because of my friends too, like they also experience like homesick. Like they also cry. They miss their family a lot. Like it's also their first time being away, like on the other side of the world, you know. So I talk with them about it. Like yeah, and it makes us stronger, you know. Like and with God as well. So it's good.
And how were you received by your teammates at LMU?
Oh, they pretty like I was feeling like welcome here. They were all so nice. They accommodated me in my first day. Like, what's the school like? What's the tradition? What's the culture? And as well as coach, he's pretty nice to me. Like, you will be in a good hands. Um, a team will look out for you for everybody. We're a team here. You got your friends, you got your teammates. Like, they will help you if you need anything. Just let us know and all that. Like, yeah. And then soon, I will be one of the people to like welcome some new players because there will be, I know for sure that there will be new players incoming like this fall, this August. So it will be good to meet some new players and make some new friends.
So no initiation for you, Shanden, when you came in. None of that sort.
Oh, there's no initiation here in the US except for the LSU though. Like we're just normal. But in here, like they respect there's no seniority level, like senior, junior, freshman. They don't it doesn't really matter. And it doesn't really matter if you're like where you're from, if you're from Europe, from everywhere in the world, like South America. Like you have to treat everybody with respect, and there has to be like boundaries. You know, of course you can make jokes, but yeah, you have to respect with your teammates that we have boundaries. Each one of us have different personality, and yeah.
All right, Brian.
Thank you, Vince. I'd like to ask Owen again. I'm just curious. You were here. You were so involved with the Filipino football community. Were there any offers to you to join any organization here? I mean, our team or clubs? Putting you in a spot.
No, sadly not. It would have been. Yeah. It was. It's interesting enough. I think no, there wasn't. But I think if I looked at the relationships I was able to build, then I think in essence, if there was any interest in kind of moving to the Philippines for the long term, then I don't think it would be too big a problem to find a space. But it's look, there are already some wonderful people doing some great stuff out in the Philippines. So that to kind of have me coming in makes no sense. There's already people way better than me doing good stuff. So, but in that instance, I was intrigued to kind of try and maybe dig a little bit more into the competitive element of football. That was intriguing for me. I'd obviously kind of really gone in at the angle where Football for Humanity were working within the communities and essentially establishing opportunities for coaches who are working within the barangay and the local communities where to kind of have got hold of maybe a couple of elite coaches and to kind of see exactly where they're at would have been really interesting. And for me to kind of maybe evaluate what's going on at that part of the game would have been fun too. But like I said, the emphasis for me when working with Football for Humanity and generally is always to kind of focus on it being more of a mission towards education, educating all or presenting education for all, because I think it's extraordinarily important that when you're working in the community and you're not getting the kind of support that you would do if you were working in a professional club, is that, well, actually you need it as much as they do. So for me, it's way more important to actually kind of operate within that circle and present people with tangible opportunities to get better at what they do for the kids they work with. But yeah, in a nutshell, no offers, but it would have been fantastic it would be fantastic to explore that possibility maybe one day. But there are many good coaches that are currently working out there, so it is what it is.
Yeah, but I still feel you could be an asset here. Don't close that door. Well,
If I got the opportunity, it would be a serious conversation with my wife.
okay.
So, we've already moved one country, so moving 19 hours on a flight the other way would be
Halfway across the
quite
world.
something. But exactly. But having said that, look, I'll indicate the philosophical context of our life as a family. I operate like that in football, but I also operate it like home. My children are my legacy, and so ultimately, when it comes to it, presenting them with the best experiences possible by engaging with many different cultures, kind of getting to grips with the challenges that come from getting involved in different parts of society, extraordinary opportunities for education for my own kids. So I would never rule it out. I'd never rule that opportunity out, because it's you only live once, and you've got to pass this on. And what better way than actually presenting your kids with a diverse range of experiences? That's the beauty. So if you guys ever want to kind of set me up for something, then just let me know, and we can at least talk about it. It'd be fun. So
Vince will
yeah.
take care of that, I'm sure. Another
Well,
question.
if we ever are in the UK, we'll look you up, Owen.
Look, UK, Sweden, you just
Yeah.
let me know. We've got a guest house ready for you guys.
All
So
right.
that's fine. No
My
problem.
other question, Owen, I mean, well, we're all this pandemic. How are you able to continue your advocacy? I mean, are you using the usual online things, or are you using any apps to continue it?
Yeah, it's interesting. Living in Sweden seems to be the only place at the moment has taken COVID in a completely different way, in a way in which actually society is able to kind of maintain general, general practice. It's kind of day-to-day stuff is kind of happening. Yes, there are some restrictions, and there is obviously COVID here, and it's actually kind of getting worse. So actually, I think there will be more restrictions coming. But for the last year and a half, actually on the ground, we've still been able to do a lot of work, which is really good. Having said that, though, working with the university to develop the international student athlete program that we're now about to launch, that's come with some level of online engagement because we are networking internationally. So there has been more of a use of online platforms such as Zoom in order to establish that. I think what's beautiful about this scenario is that actually coaches have had to get way more creative and actually they're having to actually be challenged in certain parts of their persona, their professional persona, to be able to actually deal with the demands that come from this kind of conversation, because body language isn't really something that kind of can be applied in context. Yes, facially and so forth, but there's much more prevalence now in and around what kind of content you can deliver within such a short space of time. So I think for me, the experiences have actually been quite positive in the fact that actually it's challenged me in order to be a much better coach at delivering information much quicker. But we as NIFA, we have a website. We've literally just now relaunched it as a result of the work we're doing with the university and the International Student Athlete Program. And we have a back office resource that we've consistently presenting to coaches that they can then access information online whenever they want to. So we ourselves are kind of adapting to suit, but it's in Sweden it's a little bit different from the rest, which is strange. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Owen. Let me go back to Shanden. Shanden, considering the impact and the credibility established here in the Philippines, um, I just wanted to ask, even if you're there, if you were called to play for the Philippines, like for the national tournaments, would you consider it
Yes, I would consider it.
without a
No doubt about it.
in a heartbeat?
Yes, but if it's like conflict with school, but that would be a hard one. That would be tough for me, especially with the coach as well and with the team. So depending on the month as well. If it's like spring, yeah, I think I can. Like or summer as well. But then like fall, like starting fall, August to November, I think it'll be like hectic for me. The schedule will be hectic because there will be a lot of games. We'll be traveling home and away. So yeah.
All right, thank you, Vince. Back to you.
All right, Shandon, um, because the your team has you as their, correct me if I'm wrong, their lone recruit from the Philippines. Um, is the school or the coach looking at the Philippines now as a possible destination or possible spot for recruiting players from abroad? Are you sensing that?
Oh yes, yes. But since I came at LMU and also like Snow College, like okay, like coach, um, because of also like I've been performing well. I've been scoring goals and making a big impact for the team. So like coach was like, I remember coach asking me if there is any player that you can recommend us who wants to play here or who wants to be here in the US. Just let me know and all that. And then yeah, Coach Payne like also like he really believes in my abilities, and then he really respects my country as well. How we've been through, how we dealt with crisis like such as COVID and all that stuff, and also football as well. Like he wants to help Philippine football, such as the players to prosper to another country like me, who like went out to their like um comfort zones and go to a new challenge, improve, try to get better, and after that, try to go beyond that level as well, like going to professional. And yeah, I think Coach Payne like really looks forward to in the future. Probably he will recruit some players if there will be some players who wants to go here, or maybe he will scout some players depending on which agency he will look at. I guess, yeah.
But is there an effort on your part to actively recruit? Are you um texting, messaging your former teammates? asking them, "You want to come over?" And and is there any effort on your part, or is it a wait and see?
Yes, I would love to help them. Yeah, no doubt about that. But then it's like um some of them like some people that I know, and they're like second year, so like second year of being in the school. So I think it would be hard for them to transfer the subjects in here, because it was pretty hard. Like, it was not an easy process. Like,
Mhm.
for me, it took a long time as well, since I came from the LSU first year. Like, some of my credits weren't credited to a different institution, and yeah, it was really hard. But then, but yeah, you have to take another class, like new classes here, because like schools here doesn't accept like international credits and all that. But yeah, like players would love to come here. Like, when they found out that when I was coming here, like, yeah, like they wanted to also come here. Like, some of them asked me, how did I do it? Like, oh, you just have to connect with the right people. They will like connect with an agency to network you with the different schools here in the US, so that you will like, and also make some highlight video. Like, that's really important. That's how coaches see you, how you play, how you understand the game. So yeah.
Like a
There's
soccer or football mixtape.
Yes, yes. Correct.
Okay,
Vince, can I come in at that point? Is it okay?
sure, sure.
Sorry. I've, it's really interesting listening to Shannon speak about this, because it's something that me and, for example, Chris Thomas have been talking about at Football for Humanity for some time. Is that how can you create a situation where a Filipino with huge amounts of potential within sport, how can they actually fulfill their potential by being able to be presented with opportunities in, say, somewhere like the States or even in Europe? And I think the first thing you have to kind of look at is the fact that is there potential within the Filipino platform for, say, football, and for sure there is. In fact, I believe that the Filipinos were made to play football. It kind of has, having experiences of going into San Carlos all the way through to, again, hang out in Manila and about, there are many children, many children who are extraordinarily capable of being able to play at some very, very good levels of football professionally in places like Europe and the US. But the issues are the things that surround them in terms of infrastructure, and ways and means in which actually that infrastructure is able to be substantive enough, for professional enough, in order for it to be able to attract the budgets that then can support these young people. And that's again critical. I think if you looked at the logistical issues of facilities and of what's available for young people now within the Philippines, I think they're the things that kind of need to be challenged and to be improved in order to create and facilitate opportunities. But it's actually recognizing first and foremost that the Philippine platform has something to give, and it definitely does. There are, just in San Carlos alone, I said to Shanden in my podcast with him that my experiences of San Carlos is that's an extraordinary place for football. It's got a lot of space to make it happen, but the kids play fast. And they play fast and they're aggressive, and that's suitable. That's perfectly suited to the English game and the European game. And so there's no doubt in my mind that there are many young, talented Filipinos that could come to the US or go to Sweden or Europe and make it work for them. But it's actually having the substance and the structure around them to be able to present that with that opportunity in the first place. And that's where I kind of think that the big organizations in the Philippines, in and around sport, have to kind of angle their engagement, especially from a financial perspective. They have to be prepared to go, okay, well, actually, for the Filipino platform to evolve, we need to be able to start to present opportunities globally, because that's where people are looking, and that's where people want to go. And me and, again, just to kind of nutshell it, me and Chris have this wonderful dream of being able to see a young Filipino from a barangay off the streets go through a process of support in which one day they find themselves being able to fulfill their potential on the biggest stages in Europe. And I think that's not impossible, but it does need things to be slightly tweaked and changed to be able to support that process. So more Shandens in this world can benefit and prosper. That's my thoughts on that. So.
But that's the plan is to have more Shanden Vergaras um, playing abroad at the starting at the youth level and then the collegiate level, and hopefully playing abroad. Playing abroad for whether it's the Premier League or La Liga or the MLS. That's the plan.
It's the
Yes, bro.
ability to be able to role model that potential. Sorry, Shannon. It's the
Yes,
ability
you
to
Owen,
role
my
model
question
that
for
level of
you
potential.
is, yeah, sorry.
No, go on, mate. Go on. After you.
Okay. What are your thoughts on England and Sweden Euro 2021?
Oh, in terms of how Sweden are going to perform.
Yeah, how both countries, how
That's a pretty tough question to ask. I'm patriotic to both, so I'm trying to kind of make sure that I answer this correctly. So within the context of my experiences of both environments would suggest to me that Sweden without Zlatan is a struggling nation when it comes to performing, and there's a reason why. And the social again, the cultural dynamics of Swedish football haven't really been able to apply itself to being able to bring the standard of player up to someone like Zlatan for quite some time, and that's a mechanistic process within the system that Sweden's struggling with at the moment. So Sweden have always been a strong organization, but they've always been strong as a result of relying on their limitations or understanding their limitations as a country performing. They're always relatively deep in block. They kind of work in very traditional ways in terms of how they prepare for games, and they don't necessarily attack with the kind of conviction that you'd see a lot of the big European countries, essentially how they play, their philosophy. England, on the other hand, has a very, very good young group of players who have been very, very carefully nurtured for the last 10 years and now what is recognized as a senior team. And that was actually something that was mandated from the English FA and the English Premier League when they recognized that England was failing to be able to meet the standards necessary to win a World Cup or a European Championship. So England have been proactive in making changes culturally to be able to compete, and I think they'll do very well. For me personally, this is the first time that I actually have any kind of faith in the fact that we will actually, I think, do well from a results perspective. But as you guys know about sport, things happen in an instant that change things forever. And so there have been some fantastic England sides that have shown huge amounts of promise, but have not failed, but haven't been able to kind of get over that line for one reason or another. And you just never know. But I think both of them will do well. England will do slightly better. There you go. Rather large.
and okay. Okay, another question, Owen. Might be another tough one. What were your thoughts on the Super League?
I think it was an extraordinarily clever move from what will be the business of football within the next 10 to 15 years. I understand the context of it's being seen as something that failed in its attempts to get off the ground, but I actually see that it was actually from the business element of the game, it was worthwhile taking the shot at seeing where the land lies with everybody, including the fans, just to see how much strength there still is within the fan bases of football. So if you kind of take this from a corporate angle, I think it actually was a relative success from those who were trying to instigate the ESL, because not only did they get a response, which is what they were looking for, but they also got the UEFA to again compromise on certain aspects of their organization to suit the demands of those big clubs. And this is what it's about. The ESL isn't about the ESL. The ESL is essentially about a huge amount of power being leveraged by those organizations at the very top, be it the Man Cities or the PSGs and the Liverpools of this world. they are mandated as businesses now rather than football clubs, and so they're engaging that level of power to see where they can change the game in the coming years. I'm really glad that obviously it hasn't happened, but I think if business and football continue to be as closely connected as they are, I think it's inevitable that it will happen. But when, who knows? But football was sold. So football was sold out from its romantic roots 25 years ago when the Premier League started. So in that instance, when the Premier League first came into perspective, that's when you started to see the shift from what was a romantic game to, and a social cultural enigma to what is now a very, very corporate driven platform. So yeah.
What was there something on the side of UEFA that said, why didn't you come talk to us first? Why go ahead and form the Super League right away? Why didn't you come up to us with your concerns, with your issues, rather
I
than
think sorry, I
go
think
ahead, go
those
ahead.
conversations have been happening all of the time for a number of years. So I think whatever happens behind the scenes is happening politically, and it's happening all of the time. So in that instance, I think what again those organisations behind the ESL were doing was just kind of letting UEFA know that they are on top. That no matter what UEFA wants to do or whatever kind of power it does have, it's not as powerful as the organisations that are involved in this process. So ultimately, that dialogue I think is consistent all of the time. But business is business, and from their perspective anyway, and they will flex their muscles when they need to. And sadly, their muscles seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger as the economic aspects of the game rise and rise and rise. So it's politically on a different level, I think, and I think UEFA really are losing a lot of grip on this. Who knows? We might be seeing a completely different European circuit in 20 years' time. UEFA might not exist in 20 to 30 years' time as a result of a new organisation coming in. So that's the danger.
Because I saw, and I also saw some footage of the fans from Chelsea, Man U, and Arsenal really, you know, venting their frustration and looking for the owners of these teams and what's asking what's going on. What were you thinking?
It was almost the same deal when for example at Manchester United, when the Glazers came in initially and actually kind of took leverage control over the organization. In fact, there was a new Manchester club set up from the original set of fans from Manchester United, because they were so disenfranchised with what had happened to their club. It had been created as an institution of value and culture, and all of a sudden it was brought out by an American consortium. And so back in that time, the same things were occurring. But as sad as it sounds, the power of the game is not in the fans' hands anymore. Yes, merchandise has to be sold, so I think and things have to be kind of put into a branding perspective. So it's not good for Manchester United to be a part of this ESL movement as it stands now. But as you can tell, with someone like an organisation like Man City, it hasn't taken long for the old Man City to be forgotten about, and what you now see is a completely different set of a different club in particular, in which actually that club is doing through various things, different things for its community in a way in which it can create a new relationship. I think Man City is a really good example of an organisation that's really taken a lot of different approaches to make sure that they limit the damage that comes from completely overwhelming and taking over this domain. And they've done it in extraordinary ways, both within their community and from an international perspective too. But that's another discussion to take, I think, because that's quite deep.
Okay, back to Shanden and Owen. You can chime in on this one if you want. Um, what other positions have you played in football aside from midfielder? Have there been any conversations between you and your coach considering to play other positions aside from midfielder, to, I don't know, to develop you more as a player? Is there any, um, has there been any conversation?
Oh yeah, it is. It was a surprise for me, especially at Snow. I was put at a right back because, like I like the coach see me as a winger rather than a midfielder. Like they recruited me as a midfielder, because they saw my highlight video as a midfielder, like central midfield. But then when I got there and in here, like they see me as like a winger, like a forward. But then coach, yeah, two of the coaches that I had, both at Snow and then here, they put me right back and the left back too. It's not because of like the squad is full. It's because of the tactics, I guess. Like he wants to try different things, like such as Man City, like putting some midfielders in the left back position and the right back position. Like they like to experiment like players. I also had like teammates like from as a central defender, they were put as a striker. So yeah, it's not just me, but then it's also good for me. Like I can like play with different positions, not just one position, because for example, if the coaches put you, oh, you don't want to play or you don't like to play this position because you're not used to it, how can you be able to play? And then you like complain about it. So it's better to like play as much as you can and then adapt, because and also you can also play well with your teammates, understand as well. So yeah, it's not a problem for me. But mostly most of the time I was put like in a different position, especially when I came here at LMU, like Coach Spain like puts me in the striker position or a false nine, or like both like in either flank left or right and all that. So yeah, he also gives me freedom as well. So which is good. And also it was the same thing
Yeah.
as DLSU as well. Like I had the freedom too. But at Snow, because he was a different coach, like every coach is different. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of freedom as well. Like it was a system kind of thing. Here, like we have a system, but then like some players have the freedom to create. So yeah, creativity is really important. That's how you win games, especially. So yeah, like playing multiple positions like helps me a lot as well. Like it evolved me as a player. Because who knows, like in the future, I might be good in that particular position. But most of the time, like when I was young, like I played like central midfielder most of the time. But then when I got to Manila, like they put me striker and all that, like much more attacking. Because I don't know, maybe coach see me like I attack a lot, like create some dangerous opportunities, score goals, and all that. So yeah, it's not a problem for me.
Owen, is the game headed in a direction where it is becoming positionless?
Yes, and rightly so. It's I think this is kind of where I get a little bit radical in terms of my thinking. Well, it's not radical. It's essentially kind of looking at the game in a slightly different way. I love Shanden's ode to creativity. I think the context of the game is cognitive in a way in which we're looking at trying to create players who can see different decisions consistently and are able to reflect upon the ecology of the environment around them in a way in which they can make the right choice at the right time within the most novel circumstances. I think the best players are the ones who are most unpredictable, in because you can't defend against unpredictability. It's something you can't kind of manage. Now, the game has its principles to a degree, but ultimately, you want to kind of you want to see an evolution when it comes to supporting the development of players in a way in which they can actually change and blend the dynamics of each principle in a way in which they can almost break them, because that's kind of what you want to do with young people. You want to kind of put them in a position where they believe that they are capable of absolutely anything in terms of their ability, or at least their potential. That requires, I think, then for as a coach to see the game see the game in a slightly different way, and try and I'm going to try and explain it in a way in which you can kind of see that the only thing that's actually finite and actually of limitation is the edges of the box. or the edges of the pitch, sorry, and essentially the rules that you might have to work with, i.e., offside. Apart from that, the concept of time and space is critical in terms of then how you then generate a better understanding of the game, and again how you're able to execute decisions relative to the time and space you have. And that takes a different approach to coaching when it comes to supporting young people in their development, because you're looking at a level of versatility within the framework of your coaching, and what you engage within the training, which means that positions no longer are relevant as a result of just giving young people the chance to see if they're in this place at the right time. And it's the right time for the moment of engagement, be it as a defensive off-ball engagement or an offensive on-ball engagement. That if they're able to assess at that point that this the best that space at the time is the right place to be in order to have that kind of effect, then that's where they need to be. And as I'm sure you guys are aware, Cruyff would do a much better job of explaining this model than I am at the moment. But essentially, it is kind of like a variant of total football in which you're presenting autonomy in terms of engagement, but you're presenting opportunity to. You're essentially, as a coach, you're attempting to try and train good decision makers, and I hope I've made sense in all of that.
Yes.
But by all accounts, I think that the issues with coaching positions is that you limit essentially the kind of the cognitive influence that comes from the ecology of the game around that individual, because they're always just going to be in one space at one time, kind of managing their scenario. Where, by the sounds of it with Shanden, he's had experiences of playing different parts of the pitch, so it gives him much more of a broader range of experiences to be able to draw upon to make good decisions to compete. And that's what you want, to do that, though, you've got to operate as a coach in which you are capable of embracing chaos, and you're prepared to actually work mostly within the realm of complexity in order to kind of establish good training practices, good competitive practices, good competitive content. And that's if I'm making any sense, that's kind of how I deal with the way that I want to kind of go about coaching. But I think that is the future. And the irony is that actually it's not rocket science to kind of create that bubble. A lot of the time it's actually just presenting a level of freedom in which young people play the game. And then as a coach, you facilitate, you task, or you create certain demands within that context that encourage the children to explore certain aspects of the game itself, be it a constraint, an element going towards a 3v2 in attack, for example. That would be a good way of being able to kind of emphasize a learning outcome that would then create that level of versatility. So yeah, anyway, I could talk all day and probably not make any more sense.
All right. We only have a few minutes left, Owen. Just one last question. What is your mentoring style, your teaching style towards youth footballers?
Oh, could you repeat the question, please?
What is your what is your teaching style towards these kids, the young footballers? What is your mentoring style?
It's essentially anchored in what is a relationship style approach, which obviously has a lot of complexity connected to it. But I work with teams and I work with individuals within the same context, in a way in which, especially when it comes to working with young people, the game, the finite result is not the key thing for me. If I put everything into place from a relationship point of view, which accentuates values that support the development of the human, then I believe that what will happen is the game result will come. And if it doesn't, what I've embedded with that group is essentially a level of ownership in and around the process rather than the result, in which the process themselves are the things that they measure themselves against, rather than holding themselves to what is a limited circumstance of a win or lose. It's all about learning and creating a learning journey, and actually emphasizing the idea that actually losing is a part of learning, and that as a result of that, I have to be much more relational in order to try and establish that when a player when a player is entering that kind of environment, they have the kind of psychological safety they need in order to make mistakes, and to kind of know that as a result of being a part of a process, this is now a completely different thing to look at. So yeah, just to nutshell it, I would say that I'm more relational in my approach, and I actually, and again on a philosophic level, enjoy the relational aspects of this, because it allows me to see someone like, for example, Shanden in 15, 20 years time, and still know that I've got a good relationship with that person, and that I've been able to have myself a positive impact on an individual as a result of the relationship that I have. It's looking beyond the game that's critical for me when it comes to developing a coaching style, because what else have you got to give apart from your all when it comes to supporting each person you work with? So yeah.
All right. Before we end, gentlemen, would you mind if we have a group photo?
Sure.
All right. On three. One, two, three. Okay.
Shanden, you could
Owen,
have smiled.
Shanden. Sorry?
Sorry, I said Shanden could have smiled. Where was the smile, Shanden?
I smart, coach.
Good. I saw it, man. I'm really joking.
All right.
Show off your dimples.
Okay. Owen, any final words for our viewers?
Keep up the extraordinarily good work in such hard times, and from me and all of us here, huge amounts of love back to you guys over there, especially the ones who I've been able to engage with so far in my time there. It's yeah. So and thank you guys for having me on for today. It's been a pleasure.
Shanden?
Oh, thank you for inviting me this podcast. It's really great to talk with you guys about football and everything, and also to Coach Owen, learn about his stuff in Sweden and about Europe and his coaching. And also, like, I would like to say hi to the people who are watching right now,
Go
especially
ahead.
to my friends. Hello, guys. Take good care of yourself, and then always be optimistic. Always stay positive. And yeah,
Okay. Owen, thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Shanden,
you.
maraming salamat.
maraming salamat po.
Thank you for your time. Brian, my co-host this evening, thank you as well. And with that, folks, another episode of Sports for All has ended. See you again next Saturday for another dose of Sports for All. So long, everyone.